Good morning, good afternoon. So welcome to the weekly discussion on some important international institutions and agreements. So today we'll take up the issue of free trade agreement, FTA. What? Free trade agreements. So what is an FTA or free trade agreement? What it is? So trade is an activity where some markets are bought and sold in the market. Some products, some services are bought and sold in the market. Fine. So trade is done by some person over goods or over services, and right now in the post WTO period, so trade dimension has been expanded to cover lot many other things: investment, capital, IPR. They're all becoming tradable items. Fine. So in the present domain, so global trade is going on since ancient period. Fine. When the technology was not that even developed, so maritime trade was there as a global activity. Fine. Maritime trade was going on in the ancient period even. Okay. So that is called, so trade. Trade can be also in two different dimensions: domestic trade and international trade. When the trade is conducted between the inside the country, it is called domestic trade. But when the sphere of trade is expanded to beyond the geographical domain of the country, it is called as international trade or foreign trade. Fine. And the topic that we are going to discuss today deals with the domain of international trade, not any domestic aspect. Okay, this is a topic, free trade agreement, because trade in the domestic domain is regulated by the trade policy of the government. But international trade, although the country has a foreign trade policy, but the country is not the only player in international trade. There are other countries, there are international trade regulatory bodies like WTO, prior to that GATT, etc., who regulate international trade. So the trade dimension or the domain of trade in the international arena is much wider, and so also the regulations on international trade are much wider than the concept of domestic trade. Fine. Okay. So today the topic that we have taken for discussion is relating to the trade agreements, and it is not confined to the domestic trade domain, rather it is related to the domain of international trade. Fine. So let start the issue. In recent time, Indian government has been considering or actively pursuing free trade agreement with a wide range of countries. Okay, because why government of India is so much interested to expand its domain of trade to so many foreign countries. Class sir. Class fine. As it was expanding to the because the country very well realized that expansion of trade will lead to economic prosperity. So government has been sincerely pursuing to promote its international trade domain. Fine, because trade will lead to what? First, trade will start from manufacturing. So first the country has to promote or to speed up its manufacturing. So manufacturing will lead to trade of the item. If the country does not manufacture, then how it will trade and what it will trade? The first issue of trade is to increase the production. Okay, once the production is increased, then trade possibility will expand.
Clean and green भुवनेश्वर ना खाली green भुवनेश्वर
कोटेला चकदे भुवनेश्वर कोटे भुवनेश्वर 1 भुवनेश्वर 1 माने clean and green भुवनेश्वर all over the world but all over the country like Indore भुवनेश्वर is the number one cleanest city भुवनेश्वर 1 सेटा करियो
भुवनेश्वर ना clean and green भुवनेश्वर हम मिलियो गूगल रे मिलियो हां
बीएमसी जाऊ
भुवनेश्वर 1
भुवनेश्वर 1 तार लोगो भी अछि बीएमसी साइड आपण काम करन तार नंबर 10 नंबर 10 ए मोर जो अछि बीएमसी पर संग कथा छै मु कोऑर्डिनेट करब कोन कोन बना
मत
Okay, so once the manufacturing will be boosted, manufacturing will lead to what? Boosting of manufacturing will lead to more employment. Okay, more use of the raw materials. Okay, and more taxes for the government domestically. And once the product is manufactured, so it will go for export or in the form of trade. So before this trading activity starts, so emphasis will be on manufacturing. Fine, and manufacturing is definitely the need of the country, because a country like India is also emphasizing on manufacturing, because manufacturing will in a country, labor intensive country like India where the labor power is much in surplus, so more and more manufacturing will result in more employment generation. So then go to the topic. What is a free trade agreement? It is an agreement between two or more countries to lower import and export tariff, means duty. So what is an agreement between two or more countries to reduce export and import duties or import tariff or import taxes, to reduce import duty or export duty, and this agreement is normally signed between countries. Okay, and they try to reduce the taxation between themselves on export and import, which will facilitate a free trade domain and will increase the volume of trade in goods and services. Okay, so it is what? Agreement between two or more countries to lower import and export tariffs. A free trade policy allows products and services to be bought and sold across international borders with little or no restrictions from the government in the form of taxes, subsidies, quota or prohibitions. What? So, no restriction from the government, means domestic government of both the countries, from taxes, on account of tax, subsidy, quota or prohibitions. So when two countries sign free trade agreement, so all these restrictions that remain on the path blocking free trade each or are removed. So that facilitate movement of goods, services, and in the WTO domain, as trade has been diversified to other things. Okay, that is what is the concept of free trade. করছি কর।
सर क्लास 1 प्रेस
Okay. So sorry for the interruption. So a free trade policy allows products, services to be brought and sold across international border with literal no restrictions from the government in the form of taxes, subsidy, quota, prohibitions. The concept of trade protectionism and economic isolationism are diametrically opposed to free trade. What two concepts are being discussed over here? First is trade protectionism. When a country want to protect its own trade, that is called a trade protectionism. Example: Be American, Buy American by Donald Trump is a trade protectionism measure. Then economic isolation. When a country keep itself in isolation, the example is North Korea, okay, which is being isolated, or the global community isolate Russia. Example of economic isolationism. Okay, so these concepts are opposite, diametrically opposite to free Okay, so that is what is being discussed as trade protectionism or economic isolationism. Both are opposite to free trade. Fine. Moving forward, if you see, so what are the dimensions of free trade? The World Trade Organization consider the formation of free trade area to be an exception to the most favored nation status. You know, here we come across the term called the institution called WTO or World Trade Organization, established in 1995, headquartered Geneva. Okay, as the apex body, or you can say apex global body, to regulate world trade. Okay, so consider the formation of free trade area, so among countries or among regions, to be an exception to the most favored nations principle. So most favored nation principle was a GATT concept. When a country give most favored nation status to another country, so it goes against free trade. Okay, since the preference that parties to the free trade area exclusively provide each other go beyond their accession community. Fine. So forming a free trade agreement, so restrict the trade among the two countries or among the specific member who have signed the free trade agreement. They are restricted. That is why the concept of free trade under the WTO is opposed to the issue of most favored nation status in operation prior to the WTO came into being. Fine. Although GATT allowed WTO members to establish free trade area or adopt interim agreement necessary for their construction, free trade area and the interim agreements leading to the formation of free trade area are subject to a number of requirements. You see, there is a very pertinent point. What is the pertinent point? In the post WTO was created as the international body to regulate world trade and to ensure free and fair trade among the countries or among the member countries. And WTO at present has 164 members. Fine. And if 164 members have signed the agreement to continue free trade, so then, and India is a founding member of WTO, then what is the need of creating or signing free trade agreement with different groups, different countries, different regions, different regional organizations? The reason is, so in the post WTO period, the number of free trade agreement has a mushrooming growth. Am I clear? Listen this very carefully. So in the post WTO period, there is a mushrooming growth of regional trading agreements or free trade agreement signed between countries or between countries and organizations. Fine. What is the reason? The reason is WTO was unable to fulfill the aspiration of the member countries. As WTO was unable to fulfill the aspiration of member countries, that led the country to think of creating this more and more regional grouping. Fine. Fine. So this is what is the beginning of the concept called the free trade agreement. Because the WTO is unable to fulfill the regional aspirations or the trade aspirations of different countries, they are signing free trade agreement. Okay. Article 1 of GATT, General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, the predecessors of WTO, about most favored nation status, state that any advantage, favor, privilege or immunity granted by any contracting party to any product originating in or destined for any other country shall be accorded immediately and unconditionally to the like product originating in or destined for the territories of all other contracting parties. That means if a country give under GATT, if one country give that favor to a particular country, it must give similar favor to all other contracting party of that GATT agreement. However, derogations from this most favored nation status are permitted for forming FTA, free trade agreements, under specific conditions as per the following provisions of the WTO agreement. Okay, because WTO, which was the successor of the GATT, so it has made some provisions that country can form FTAs. FTA members shall not erect higher or more restrictive tariff means tax, on non-tax barriers on trade with non-members than existed prior to the formation of the FTA. Fine, but FTA members shall not erect higher or more restrictive tariff or non-tariff barriers on trade with non-member than existed prior to the formation of the FTAs. That is what is the condition under WTO. Okay, they cannot erect barriers which will hamper trade among the countries. Fine. Then moving further, elimination of tariff here means taxes and other trade restrictions be applicable to substantially all the trade between the constituent territories in products originating in such territories. Elimination of duties and other trade restrictions on a trade within the FTA to be accomplished within a reasonable length of time, meaning a period of no longer than 10 years. Then different types of economic engagement. So this free trade agreement has different dimensions, that is known as the different types of economic engagement among the countries in the world. First is PTA or preferential trade agreements. See, so preferential trade agreement is a stepping stone towards free trade agreement. In a PTA, two or more partners agree to reduce tariff on agreed number of tariff lines. What? Reduce tariff on an agreed number of tariff lines means items. The list of products on which the partners agree to reduce duty is called positive list. What is a positive list? Suppose country A and country B, they have signed this PTA, preferential trading agreements. Fine. Suppose country A agrees that 20 items I will exempt from taxes. Country B say I will exempt on 30. This is called the positive list. When country B will export 30 items, so this will not be taxed. And when country A export 20 items, this will not be taxed. That is called the positive list. What is the positive list? This 20 item is the positive list. This 30 item is the positive list. Am I clear? Indian Mercosur preferential trade agreement is such an example. However, in general, PTA do not cover substantially all trade. This is the limitation of the preferential trading agreement, because here preference is given not to the entire gamut of trade but on limited products in the trade basket. Suppose country A and B, they are export and importing 200 items each. A export 200 items and B export to A 200 items. But the PTA will not cover the entire items. So suppose from the country A side, it may cover 20 items, and from country B side, it may cover 30 items. Those 20 and 30 will be called as the positive list. It will be handed over between the two sides. Though the country will hand over the list of positive items, that or the list called the positive list containing the items which will be put to free trade, and rest 180 from A and 170 from B will be not covered under the preferential trade agreement. They will be as per the normal taxation with that tariff rate between the two countries. That means on 20-30 items there will be no tax, but on other 71, 180 and 170 items in the respective side, there will be normal taxation on import and export. Hope it is clear to you. Then moving forward, see next. After PTA, there is a free FTA, free trade agreement. So there is a positive list in the PTA. What is the FTA? Tariff on item covering substantial bilateral trade. That means here number of item is substantial. That means more items are covered under the FTA and are eliminated between the partner countries. Between each maintains an individual tariff structure for non-members, for example India and Sri Lanka. Fine. So here what happened? The tariff on that in FTA, tariff on item covering substantial bilateral trade are eliminated between the partner countries. However, each maintain an individual tariff structure for non-members. So countries sign the countries signatory to the FTA, they eliminate taxation, but they maintain a list of that the amount of taxation for the non-members. That means non-members have to pay the taxation. Okay, but only member country are exempted from paying the taxation. Fine. Then integration provided by the common market is one step deeper than that by the custom union. A common market is a custom union with provisions to facilitate free movement of labor and capital, harmonize technical standards across members, etc. For example, the European common market is an example. That's a common market. So that is no barrier to trade. Fine. Then economic union. Economic union is a common market extended through further harmonization of the fiscal, monetary policy and shared executive, judicial and legislative institutions. European Union is an example of this. Free economic union. So they have integrated their economy, okay, through the European Union. Fine. It is a common market extended through further harmonization of the fiscal, monetary policy. Okay, European Union has integrated their monetary policy but not in fiscal policy. So you can say, so they are in a course of integration, but they are only integrated their monetary policy through the European Central Bank, but the fiscal policy is different for different countries in the European Union member countries. Judicial legislative institutions, European Union is an example of this because their judiciary integrated, executive integrated, legislative integrated, the European Parliament, the executive, that European Council. Through this, they regulate their activity. That's called common market. Here, person can purchase and sell his products over any market in the union without any barrier. That is called the common market. What is the other dimension? Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement or Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, CECA and CEPA. These terms describe agreement which consist of an integrated package of goods, services and investment along with other areas including intellectual property right, competition, etc. The India-Korea SEPA is India-Singapore SEPA is one such example, and it covers a broad range of other areas like trade facilitation, custom cooperation, investment, competition, intellectual property right, etc. Okay, so here, not only goods but services, IPR, etc. are added in the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement and Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement. You see, why two things? In a cooperation agreement, the benefit may not be equal to both the sides. Suppose parties of India and South Korea, they sign a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement. The benefit may not be equal to both the sides. India may get less or India may get more benefit, or South Korea may get more benefit or less benefit when it comes to comprehensive economic partnership agreement. Fine. That is a cooperation, one country cooperate more, one country cooperate less. But when it comes to partnership, the benefit must be equal to both the sides. Because here they have entered into a partnership for mutual benefit, and the mutual benefits will be equal to both the sides. Am I clear? Then custom union. Custom union partner countries may decide to trade at zero duty among themselves. However, they maintain common tariff against the rest of the world. So in a custom union, so the member country agreed to deal in zero tariff among themselves. But when it comes to that trading with other countries, so what they do? So they maintain a tariff line with other countries. Fine. SACU, South African Custom Union, is an example of such among the South African countries. Okay, but with others they are unable to maintain. European Union is also an example of that. Okay, so they maintain a zero tariff among themselves, but when they trade with outside world, so they are able to maintain a tariff line for them. Okay. Then significance of FTA. So what is the benefit? What benefit the country get by becoming a member of a free trade agreement? Okay, what benefit? So it gives business and consumer improve access to a wide range of competitively priced goods and services, new technologies and innovative practices. Help to obtain more benefit from foreign investment. Promote regional economic integration and build shared approach to trade and investment between the trading partners. Can deliver enhanced trade and investment opportunity that contribute to the economic growth of the less developed economies. Support stronger people-to-people, business-to-business link that enhance overall bilateral relationship with the FTA partners. So these are the benefits. Why the free trade agreements are that important or significant at present? Because each country it want to do some trade and get economic benefit of the trade. When they trade among themselves, so trade give them economic prosperity. Okay, and that is what not only economic prosperity, so this attract new technology, so they attract new innovation practices. Okay, so it attract foreign investment because capitals have become freely movable, promote regional economic integration because a country in the region they cooperate with each other, can deliver enhanced trade and investment opportunity. Okay, support stronger people to people, business to business link that enhance overall bilateral relationship with the FTA partners. Fine. These are the advantage for which the FTAs are right now being promoted and what the purpose they serve for the global community and why they become important. And also they can continue to provide additional benefits to the trading partners over time, including via inbuilt agenda that encourage ongoing domestic reform and trade liberalization. Okay, but what are the major challenges? Protectionist tendencies, moves such as plan to raise import duty on non-essential items will only expose the government to the charge of being protectionist. If a country impose taxes, raise the barrier, it is called a protectionist government. Like the policy of Trump to encourage American products, be American, buy American. The past 2 decades after the 1991-92 saw a step decline in tariff rates. The trend, however, has been reversed under the ruling government, with the average applied import tariff actually rising, but still challenges remain. Fine. That means if the import-export duty is increased by the government, it promotes protectionism policy followed by the government. Then demographic dividend. These non-tariff issues could pose hurdles for India in reaping the gains of its comparative labor advantages. Okay, so demographic dividend. These non-tariff issues could pose hurdles for India in reaping the gain of the comparative labor advantage. Fine, that is what will be the benefit of this issue. Fine. Shift of focus. Wrapping up this FTA talk could narrow soon, given that India focus could shift to the series of events linked to the India's G20 presidency, because India, the G20 president in 2023, has already become the G20 president and will hold the summit in 2023. So free trade will shift India's focus from the G20 to other domains. Influential lobby can delay it more. Political lobbying from the influential lobby groups such as the farmer union and the auto sector could intensify, because if their interest is going to be affected by the free trade agreement, different lobby like the farmer lobby, the auto manufacturers, the IT sector like the NASCOM, they may come forward to lobby against the free trade agreement, because they realize that signing the free trade will affect their economy or their own interest. Priority to non-tariff issues. In much of the negotiations currently under discussion, climate action, carbon emission, labor issue are taking precedence over trade issues. Fine. So, but you see, free trade agreement is the most important popular catchword right now, and countries after country are right now trying to sign the free trade agreement. Then the generalized system of preferences. Currently, we may benefit from the GPS, but if they come in a non-tariff barrier by citing labor or environment, then it become an issue citing standard adjustment. Child labor are regions. India has been a beneficiary of the US GPS program since November 1975, under which beneficiary countries are allowed to export thousands of products to USA without the added burden of duty. Okay, then recessionary condition. There could potentially offer partner country handle the trigger non-tariff protectionist measures as a developed nations stare at the recessionary conditions. Fine. So these are the limitations of FTA, but still FTAs are becoming popular. Environment issue. Developed countries such as the US have brought up the issue of carbon emission in the process of manufacturing melted steels as a non-tariff related issue, on which they impose restrictions on movement of goods to manufacturing goods to USA. India mostly produces steel generated from iron ore, which comes from mining, and most developed countries have resorted to methods of generated from the scrap, which result in lower carbon emission. When you make steel products from scrap, they are less polluting than when you smelt the iron ore to get the iron and make the steel. So many foreign country right now developing their steel products to the metal scrap than the metal ore, because metal ore smelting is more polluting, and that is why they impose more taxes on the carbon tax like that. Then the carbon border adjustment mechanism, the European Union has proposed carbon border adjustment mechanism to tax non-carbon intensive products such as iron and steel, cement, fertilizer, alumina and electricity generation from the 2026. EU importers will buy carbon certificates corresponding to the carbon price that could have been paid had the good been produced under the EU carbon pricing rules, because some companies shift their manufacturing base to the country where the carbon conditions or the emission conditions are relaxed than the stringent conditions set by the European Union. And from 2026, European Union has made the condition any country exporting product to or any European country importing product to itself from outside must deposit the carbon tax, so which might have been spent had the product been produced in European Union stringent environmental condition, and that amount will equalize the European company with the foreign company in the price front, and company will not shift their manufacturing base from Europe to other country where the environmental standards are not that strictly followed. Fine. This way, free trade has its own challenges, and free trade agreement is facilitating. Okay, so India and FTA, after opting out of the regional comprehensive economic partnership with ASEAN, a 15-member FTA grouping that includes Japan, China, Australia, along with the 10 ASEAN country. So India agreed not to sign the agreement. However, it was announced in May 21 that Indo-US EU talks that has been stalled for 2013 will be reviewed. India has FTA with ASEAN. India has signed FTA with the SAARC country. India have signed FTA with Singapore and many other East Asian countries. Fine. India is in the process of negotiating bilateral free trade agreement with the UAE, UK, Australia and Canada. Okay, and the FTA with Australia was very advanced, while the second with the UAE was near to finalization. Why India is so much interested? Because India very well realized that to enhance economic prosperity, free trade or enhancement trade is a condition. Okay, recent India Australia free trade agreement has been signed. Okay, so it will facilitate trade between India and Australia. So India is very much serious that to sign this free trade agreement with as much country as possible, so its trade volume will increase and it will be able to, okay, so have increased its share in world trade, because at present India's share in world trade is around 2%. Such a vast country, if its share is only 2%, it is a big insult to India. And although it is a member of the European Union, but sorry, it is a member of the WTO, but she, while it mercantile, so between the countries, she, India and Australia is the graphical presentation. This can make the things much clear for you. Fine. Indian export to Australia, India's import to Australia. Signing free trade agreement with more and more country will definitely enhance India's potentiality to increase its share in the global trade. That is what, keeping that in view, India has been signing free trade agreement with a number of countries. Okay, and this will definitely bring more prosperity to India. Fine.